GSI, there's too much text within the department of a long name. The department normally changes. Not really an agency, although we call ourselves one. Geological mapping as opposed to the Ordnance Surveys, land mapping. We do a bit of an Ordnance Survey offshore with Infomar, the National Marine Mapping Programme with the Marine Institute. And like previous speakers have said, we're trying to get into the knowledge game rather than just pumping data out. Through everything, through projects, a lot of work, central government, but working with local authorities, particularly in groundwater, third level, we fund research, collaborative work, and a lot of EU work. A lot of the external work we do is EU Interreg FP7. And a data repository. I didn't know we were going to get into the terabyte wars, or would have bumped up the numbers, but maybe with 100 terabyte storage at the minute and adding about 10 terabyte per annum on the marine side. And data delivery, it's all about getting our data out there, and it really has been with us for a long time. Over 2,500 registered web download customers, pumping out over 10 terabytes a year over the web. The odd person still looks for a hard drive or a CD, and they're generally sent back to the web unless they're persistent. And a free digital data policy, which is probably what made us a little bit different since 2007. I was going to run through how does it work and where it's going. I'm not going to look at generating and storing data, I don't have time, but a little bit about what's the web about, what's GIS about. It's about stakeholders finding the data, getting the data. How do we justify free data, because that's a common question, and there's a question about the value chain. And what's new and where it's going, a few ideas. Web mapping sites, it's all about having web mapping sites, and we've been doing this for a long time. People find us on the web, and they go to our web mapping. We yesterday got some Google Analytics for this year of our main GSI.ie site. 51% of all the people who visit our homepage click on the online mapping tab. That's a good thing. The other interesting thing is most of them aren't there by accident, and they actually go to another page, so the bounce rates are quite low. That's if you believe Google Analytics. Most stakeholders still prefer a sectoral view. The idea of having to do we have to build a dedicated web viewer for this project, for this industry, for these clients, and they do prefer that rather than having to root through all our data. But getting at them, getting it up on the web, it still works very well, and it's making these smarter. The only good thing is we're now at least serving them out of a single ArcSDE map store, so they're not pulling them from all over different places. Well, some of them are. ISDE, there's a talk, thankfully there's a talk later on about ISDE, but someone who understands it a bit better. I've been in it since the start, where we're trying to push just collaboration with MI, led by MI and EPA, by Tom, Sterling work that was done. And the metadata, you know, John Evans of the Marine Institute used to say metadata is like fibre. You know, everyone hates it, but you know it's good for you. And it is a pain pulling it together, you know, whoever, the unfortunate people in your organizations, you have to do that. You have to, at some stage, get all that metadata together. But the really good thing is now it's becoming linked to WMS services, the new version of ISDE. You click on the resources and you're getting into WMS services. So the gap, it's closer and quicker metadata to map, and therefore people will start to realize there's more information behind it. There's been this gap all the time, particularly in our organization. Give us a shapefile, here's the metadata, yeah, that's grand. Bin that, we'll just use it for whatever we want. So then also the move to more open linked data within ISD again, so there's lots of different formats and lots of more open formats, so less of the proprietary stuff going on. The smarter stuff like Tom already said, you know, you've got your borehole database in our case, people want to look at the map, but then they want to model it and they want to be able to use it. And we're doing clever stuff there where you can pull out the layers, you can't see very much here, but the gravels, the glacial till, the alluvium. This is techie stuff, but it's real. It's the volumetric assessments for the engineers. It's the mine plans, it's the real values, it's the commercial values, it's saving people money on site investigations. And you can only do it because we've dedicated time and effort into digitizing the data, into pulling it in, but it's now getting a lot quicker to handle this stuff. And then you can do these crazy kind of stuff, like this is a 3D visualization under O'Connell Street, that's the spire, that's a really bad blob of the buildings, but you can actually see, and terrible colours for the geology, but you start to get an idea, you can actually build up these cross sections and layers, and you can create all the fly-through and visualization. Just a bit on the marine side of things, Infomar, this is a data monster, it's the offshore mapping, and it's all done with sonar and multi-beam echo sounders, and you just generate tons and tons of data. IT challenges, we have two 25 terabyte servers that are on boats. You're worried about flood risk, worried about the things sinking. Sorry. So you need huge PC processing CPU time with this, and this is one of the issues with the cloud. The cloud is great, and we're being told, yeah, move your stuff to the cloud. We can't even put it on the network. If you're not processing your data on your desk, you're going to be waiting forever for the answers, and this is still a challenge. So if someone could build me a pipe to the cloud, it'll probably need to be a physical thing. I don't know, like a sewer pipe. We just can't, so we can't use it, and it's still a monster issue for us. This data, obviously, the marine data is critical. You have MSFD, and there's talks on that, EU policy, offshore energy, getting it out there. And there's extensive use of WMS in this, and 3D visualization, and now 3D processing. One of the changes on this is actually 3D processing and 3D editing. And I don't have pictures here, but even in using our 3D suite, we're actually editing pixels, moving around, editing the shapefiles in 3D, putting them back in and out of Esri formats, etc. And then you can produce all this cool stuff. These are shipwrecks. You can pull them out of seabed, and everyone loves the images, and you understand why the program goes on. An interesting one here is on the top left. You can't really see it, but it's a map, and the colors on all these marine charts, the cooler the colors, the deeper the water. So you're going from red areas that are really shallow down to blue areas that are deep. And this is mapping last year outside Killary, outside Clifton. And it's Mannion Bay, it's called. And as part of the mapping, we came across a shoal, so a shallow area. But you're trying to explain to people the importance of that. And actually, it's only when you make up a little cartoon, you pull in the 3D DTM, and you get some smart teenager who works for us, who I don't know how to do this, the internet children. They puts a model, an actual scale model, in the right place of a ship and shows what it looks like. Then even our Secretary General understands this is important. You can rip the ass out of a ship. This is pollution, this is a problem, well done, here's next year's budget. That's how it works. With Eamon Ryan, you used to use an offshore windmill, it was different. Another neat thing we're doing, and sorry I didn't bring 3D glasses for you, but this is, you'll have to trust me, this is a 3D image, merged DTMs onshore and offshore. It's actually the SARTEM data and our offshore mapping for Galway, and the Marine Institute have done a very good job with us of producing this real map of Ireland, showing Ireland's 10 times the size offshore it is onshore. But we're producing these little real maps of individual areas. Real map of Galway, just to cheese off all the people in Clare, actually. But anyway, that's another story. But 3D visualization, and it's not. It used to be that 3D visualization and fly-through was a bit of a gimmick, a management tool. But actually, you can extract data in it, you can edit in it, you can work in it now. But still, as a management tool and as a public tool, it's very, very useful, and you can do this stuff easier. And this is brilliant. This is just a different color ramp. That's all it is. A US company. All have made a colour ramp available to make experimentation. So you run this off on your own colour printer. You order a couple of 100 glasses for $100 off the internet, and you can go and use these on demos, public demos like tall ships and all this kind of stuff. And it works. People get it then. They get that, it's not all flat offshore. Free data. I mentioned I'd come back to free data. 2007, we had 100,000 in sales revenue, and it was costing us just about that much to sell it, to police it, to run around after people. It was a pain. Luckily, we had a Secretary General at the time, Brenda Toohey, and Assistant Sec Martin Brennan, the Senior Civil Servants, who made the decision. We got some consultants in, it's a funny story, who were looking at doing closer collaboration with one university, with UCD, and they said, we think we can convince them to share the data with UCD. They gave the presentation, and halfway through the presentation, the guys were going, this is a great idea, we should share it with all the universities. And the other guy goes, no, we should share it with everybody. And then the other guy goes, and the consultants are standing there in the middle of the presentation, and he's going, no, we'll share it with everyone, we'll make all the data free, and we'll do it over the web. Brilliant. Consultants nearly crapped themselves. They said, how did we do? I said, I don't know, who's going to do this project? But they got the idea. Now we've $1.5 million in project revenue versus the 100,000 we were chasing around after. 10 times, we've gone from 250 to 2,500 customers. The interesting thing is we did a cost-benefit analysis, brought in PwC. No one believes you unless you use external consultants. It doesn't matter how you do the numbers. So you bring in the consultants. They looked at Infomar, just at the seabed survey, looked at the cost of it. It's 80 million to finish the coastal mapping, the inshore mapping. And they worked out that the return to the state across all the sectors is 4 to 6 times, 4.4 times to the cost of it with the free data. The problem is the state, our department, is paying for the mapping. The benefit comes across everywhere else, mostly in private industry. As my Sec Gen pointed out to me, it's not coming back into this department. Team Ireland, green jersey. Anyway, I got the budget. So the big thing, it removes the pay barrier, and that's also, it's not just a pay barrier for business, it's also an excuse for best practice. People say, well, we would do our groundwater mapping, but you have to pay for the data, all this, but you don't. No, the data's there. If you're not using it, it's your problem. We're making it available, It is the US model, we know that. It's an EC recommendation, and we've heard already. It's a useful precedent, and more importantly, probably gave us the moral high ground. That people complained about our data, we say, do you want your money back? It was free. Rest my case, In terms of future, this is just extracted this week from, we got another clever report on what are the IT challenges for our own department, DCNR, and this is in terms of the future bit on the IT side. Obviously cloud virtualization, but I've added in comments. Like I say, cloud virtualization is great, but with heavy data users, bandwidth issues, it's not the panacea for everything. HTML5, I don't understand what that is. IPv6, same. Big data, yeah, Oracle 11, great, SQL Server, but more storage, more backups, more data handling, you know, with these data monsters. You still physically need people to run around. You get to the stage where you can't, you know, your backups are taking longer to run your whole weekend. So it is a data monster, it is a challenge. Our data challenge is, interestingly, and both Tom and Hugh talked about this, that it's out there, it's easy consumption, it's not about a GIS map. One of the things that happens then, the data is consumed easily, they don't actually see where it comes from. Now that might seem kind of precious, we'd like people to know there's a GSI data layer in there, but then they also don't know what the basis for the decision is, and maybe it's sometimes hard for us to argue for funding or money to upgrade the resources. Quality control versus demand for data now. Do you have a shape full of that? Do you have this? Can we give it? Yeah, it is, but it's only preliminary. That doesn't matter. Suddenly it's gone and it's in a planning process. And the standards in data management versus ease of creation and distribution. Everyone can use, like we said, GIS, just a tool, just like Excel, isn't it? Yeah, but it's still rero, rubbish in, rubbish out. It's still a problem. And we haven't, I mean, hats off to OSI, the investment they've made in Prime, to the amount of work and time and effort. We started down that road, and we couldn't sustain it. So, you know, we're using ArcSDE, we've got a map store, detailed data models. We have detailed data models, they're too detailed to fill, they're too detailed. The translation of data cleaning is just, it's going to take us a million years. It is only a tool, but like I said, it needs expert data management skills, and still, as we showed with the moving resource figures, the biggest issue is still people, good information management people, getting and retaining people. Because you can buy all the software you like and the hardware you like, it doesn't work. And nothing works when you take it out of the box. Nothing. The next thing, mobile apps. Obviously that's, and I don't have fancy graphics on this, but our bigger neighbours, the British Geological Survey, have about 800 staff in the UK, and they're big into this and handheld. I'm not 100% convinced people really want to know on their smartphone what geological formation they're standing on, but you know, they might want to know about the groundwater quality, or they might want to be able to create virtual boreholes. And we're doing a bit of work with Esri, and ArcGIS.com lets you use that quite easy. We're doing a lot more on subsurface modelling, greater detail for the engineering business. On 3D visualization to interpretation, actually using interpretation and editing in it, 4D modelling, particularly for areas like groundwater, erosion, trying to look at changes over time, not just flicking around, moving up and down coastal levels. And the 3D web, nice visualization stuff. One interesting thing, I've just got some stills of it, I wouldn't be as brave as running video clips or web, or it's like acting with animals and children, I don't know any of that. But some of the gaming technology stuff we're doing with partners is quite clever, and there's points already been made, greater convergence, greater integration, getting the data talking to each other, and just sort of a few closing slides. Things like better planning tools. It doesn't look like rocket science to all of you who are using GIS, but just being able to put in front of people all the foreshore license information for the decision makers from a WMS where our data is in it via the Marine Institute, served out down to Clonakilty, you know. And it'll often surprise you. It's not that long ago when I met senior planner came in to talk to us about geohazards, and we got a bunch of people around the table. We immediately put up a screen, we started looking at GIS and 3D and air photographs, and the person was going, wow, can you show me my house? And, you know, I was going, well, what sort of maps are you using? Oh, you know, we're in the custom house, we don't use maps. But you're planners. Yeah, we have files. Sorry, but that was that kind of a moment, you know. So, you know, we're a long way from convergence, I think. Anyway, but then one of the nice things, new generation viewers, these are these flex viewers people are using. And a lot of this has been developed. Some bits have been tweaked and developed in-house. We have Esri resources and some smart people, you know, these kind of 3D viewers where you can pick out a block, extract a DTM, drape. In this case, these are the air photos, and you're looking at landslides. In this case, a new viewer we're going to launch soon, where you can actually look at the landslide where it is and then query the information, the same kind of thing. And then you can throw in your geology and all your other features, but they work quite neat. And then making it simpler to use, more intuitive, less techy. That's probably the other place GIS is going, and adding into Google utilities, you know, so that people can switch between one and the other. I don't have pictures of it, but an interesting thing recently, we're the Department of Communications, and we're the endless broadband rollout schemes. In the most recent one, where they were looking at sort of getting those last few % of people up in Donegal who just can't get the internet. I think it would have been easier to send them on a check, but anyway, in the project in trying to tie them down, they actually used Google Street View to work through the list, because they asked for feedback on where do you have broadband. If you can't get a connection service, contact us. And then in tying people down, because, and it's a reflection kind of on our street data, you end up with two people both called Murphy, both in the same townland. And they use Street View and a GIS application with the OSI data and the postal address information to ring people up and say, are you the Murphy on the right-hand side of the road with the white house, or are you the Murphy on the left-hand side of the road with the blue house and the green car? And people are going, hold on, I'll go outside now and I'll wave to you, you know. And I have to admit, one of the people told me they got one person to do it just for the crack. You're not recording this, girl. But I mean, and it was simply by incorporating Street View into the application and saved a fortune. I mean, that's a real business application. And interestingly, when we presented then a summary of the kind of GIS, the actual ISD spend for the department, we were just able to single out that and a few other little bits and pieces to make people understand the business process. And it's clever use of the business process. This kind of thing I was mentioned about future use and physics engines, where a company called RealSim, they're a campus company down in Galway, and what they've done is we've worked with them on things like seabed mapping. So this is just a screen grab. Like I said, I didn't want to run it, but it has, you know, screaming seagulls and everything, and you can adjust. You can put in our real seabed mapping information for an area. You put in a turbine, and you can adjust the properties. The two little bars you can't see, one is turbine mass and the other is wind speed. And you can create a virtual test site. So Mainstream Energy put some money into RealSim to develop this. And when you play with it, you can keep messing around until the turbine eventually falls over, which is good crack, but actually it's showing you need to, you know, the cost of putting these devices out there, the cost of developing these things is, and it's just a convergence. But the big leap is that no matter how good you get with GIS, the gaming technology that makes the thing look better so that people will believe it and understand it, even though all the physics, you know, the physics is right, but you present people with just numbers and physics don't understand it. And that's one of the interesting areas. And there's a lot of smarts in Ireland for this stuff, and we're not really tapping into it. You know, they're developing games, but they're not taking those smarts. There's very few companies actually applying them in the business world and the real world. That's sort of it for me. The last thing is someone mentioned the value proposition. I thought it was interesting. Mick Byrne from Esri was doing some sort of course last year, and he was going around analysing different things, as they do. And he managed to summarise all GSI's business onto a single slide, which I can't do because I'm down the trenches. And it was kind of useful that he was able to say, well, tell me what you do and make it into one slide, so it's really handy to be able to use it. But as you can see, the GIS and the IT doesn't really matter. It has to be about the outputs. So, and we've got to keep doing that. And the shared services, and hopefully more free data. Okay, thanks, man.